different parts of Kenya, a live studio audience is about to shoot unscripted questions. This is Agenda Kenya with Jason Nyantino.
On Agenda Kenya tonight, Commissioner Otiende Amolo, Chairperson, Commission on Administrative Justice, Felix Okaj, Convener, Public Affairs Committee, Association of Professional Societies in East Africa, Sarah Mudhiga, Program Officer, International Commission of Jurists, ICJ, Kenya Section, and Wangoi Mbatia, Executive Director, Kenya Network of Grassroots Organization. Thank you for joining us. Welcome to Agenda Kenya, your award-winning talk show. Tonight we focus on devolution. Is this the answer to Kenya's regional development disparities? I've got fantastic audience members coming in from different counties from across the country. You're most welcome to tonight's discussion. Our first question is from Boniface Mayabi. Boniface, your question.
Okay, thank you. Maybe first I would say that I am the student chairman, Kenya Institute of Mass Communication, and I'm a youth leader in Mumias constituency. And I would ask this, that research has proven that half of Kenyans do not actually understand what we mean by devolution. And we are just headed towards the election period. And when you talk about devolution, it is about leadership, it is about governance. And what we want out of this is integrity. We want ladies and gentlemen of good personality to give us actually the change we want and the growth in these counties. So I would ask this, are Kenyans actually ready to actually get the best leaders who will give us the growth we expect in these counties?
Thank you, Boniface. I'll start with you, Commissioner Otiende. Last time you were here, you were not a commissioner, so congratulations.
Thank you.
So give it a go.
Actually, let me start from when I was here, because I was then in the committee of experts. And Boniface's question is two-faced. One is the not understanding devolution. And two, are we going to elect the right leaders? In not understanding devolution, I think there have been a number of efforts. The committee of experts itself, I think, reached about 10 million Kenyans at the time to explain devolution, among others. More recently, I think the Ministry of Justice has an initiative to do this. Now, I agree that we need to do more. All of us, including the ministry, including my commission, we all need to make Kenyans understand not just devolution, but very many aspects of the Constitution. Because at the time they voted, most of them were busy knowing whether they should vote yes or no. But now is the reality. However, on the second question, will we get the right leaders? It is a very important question that must go down back to Kenyans. The Constitution gives you the opportunity to select from an array of people. You must make sure you elect the right people. Of course, there are others who might be barred from vying out of the Constitution or on account of a number of other things. But those who are not, it is entirely up to you to elect the right leaders for this country. If we continue electing the wrong leaders and complaining, then we only have ourselves to blame.
Okay, thank you, Tiende. Wangoi, who do you think is whose responsibility it is to educate Kenyans, legally speaking and also otherwise?
I think the responsibility falls on a wide range of bodies. One, we enacted a new constitution that we broadly supported, and the process of implementation has been ongoing. So we've put in place various laws and various institutions have been created. Besides that, I think also there is a role for the citizens themselves to play. I'll start with the question at hand. Who gets to tell the citizens about the devolved government and what it's going to look like? In the aspect, for instance, of elections, I think there's a role to be played both by the IEBC and also by other supportive institutions like civil society. For instance, the person asking is a student leader. There's actually a role to be played even by students themselves because they are conduits of information. It is easier to reach them at their institution level and for them to download their information to their mothers and grandparents. So there's a role for everybody. Whether or not we have adequate time to both make practical what we passed and at the same time be able to educate people so that they can see it realistically is a challenge. But if you look at, for instance, the outlay of functions of devolved government, if you look at the fourth schedule and what it provides for as the national level functions of government and the county level functions of government, then you can see there are a lot of people, whether they are inside government or outside, who have a role to play. I'll give you an example. extension work will be county work. If you look at the extension officers, agricultural extension officers, the health extension officers, all those people will end up at the county level. They know that, and they have a role to play in explaining to the people from now on, this is where we will be falling. Okay. There's also a role to be played by the professionals. Then the institutions like ak6 will now become an issue, because there's a role to be played by the professionals. They understand how their profession will be affected by the devolution and the decentralization, and they can bring it down to the people. In other words, there is no central body for civic education. It's a question of every institution affecting itself at the grassroots and getting people involved, but also importantly, the citizens taking charge and realizing this is our country and we've got to do our bit as well.
Thank you. Before I go to Felix to hear what APSIA is doing, I want Sarah to respond to this. A recent survey done in Kenya has shown that 47% of the Kenyan people do not understand what devolution is all about. Yeah. Do you think that is the case?
Yes, actually it is the truth. A lot of the places we have visited, even as civil society and ICJ Kenya, we have found that people do not understand not only devolution as per the law or the constitution, but also under the different legislation that have recently been passed. So we have found that it's true. The number may even be larger than 47% in terms of understanding really what devolution is supposed to do for the country, and really distinction between the fact that devolution is for development and furthering national development through devolved systems, rather than actually retreating into own backyards.
So how do we proceed? Because the election is coming, so almost half the country does not seem to understand where they're going to vote.
Okay, I agree with Wambui, what she's saying about the issue of actually each person taking their role, because as much as we feel that the primary role of development or of civic education lies with the state, the time is not enough. In terms of from right now, we have a lot of work to do. We have a lot of people who need to know who they're supposed to be voting for. The leaders who are out there campaigning also do not understand what their role will be as governors or otherwise. So at this point, I would say that the role spreads to all of us. We all need to understand what the Constitution provides. We all need to understand what different laws that have been recently passed provide for devolution.
All right, Felix, yes, I'm getting worried.
It is worrying. It becomes more worrying when you go down in a local church and you tell people, I understand to be a governor. They ask you, is that an MP, senator, or what? Which means we've not told them what is there. You get the point. But so let me address this.
Are you running for?
I'm running for governorship in Siaya County.
So your people do not understand what you're running for?
It came like that. You know, it was a church function. I went and I mentioned and explained at length. After that, you see, in Siaya, there's been a war about senatorship between Honorable Rengo and Oburu. So they asked, now, do you mean Okach wants to take over from those two or what? Then I have to sit and explain to them at length. But that notwithstanding, let's start this way. All of us Kenyans, we voted for the new constitution, and we said yes. And whatever we were saying for is there. Article 185, all the chapters about devolution are in the acts of, in the constitution, which we passed. You remember when we were passing it, saying yes, others were saying it has been read for us, we don't need to read it. This is the time now that the rubber is meeting the road. It means that you passed yes. So by passing yes, we passed in aspect of devolution. It's not a bad thing though, it's good. Because remember the first days of devolution we had on CDF, and that was only 2%. It created some changes. But now this one, you're talking of 16% going down. But that notwithstanding, what's important for us is that all of us, because at Professional Center, which a professional association where I am a chairman of PSC committee, we have got over 30 membership organizations with over 50,000 members. And we have done a lot of studies and support from donors and local. We are using all that to keep making sure that people understand what it is.
So you're doing forums across the country? We're doing
forums and meetings for sessions for buy-in on these issues of devolution. Okay. But that notwithstanding, let me put it this way. There are also certain acts of parliament which have been effected to be in line with the Constitution. Things like the Government Accountables Act, Transition Development Act, the Finance Management Act. You see now the Treasury is tied to the county arrangement. So all those things are in place. Okay. What I can ask all of us here is that take one step and ask and get involved. Okay. See, like the BVR elections going on, BVR registration. There's someone who, instead of going in, they're busy criticizing or asking questions. Okay. What we need to do is to get involved.
Thank you, Felix. I need to take my next question from Jane Mureithi. Jane is a teacher.
Thank you. I am a teacher, primary school teacher here at Nairobi. And I'm wondering, now that we have the governor and the senator coming from the county, the two of them have different roles, of which some of us don't know. We are wondering whether the matters of the county will stagnate because of the presumed powers of two setters of power. Is there a way that people will be made to know that the senator does this while the governor does the other one?
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you. Wangui, you want to take that? Yes. Senator and governor?
Yes. You have, first of all, to understand the way our government structure is. We are going to have the executive arm of government. We will still have the legislative arm of government, and we will have the judiciary as well. The judiciary remains by and large national, so the court system will operate nationally. The executive, however, you have the national level executive, which will comprise of cabinet secretaries. That's who we have known as ministers, will be cabinet secretaries. Under the new constitution, there will be 14 to 22 of those. So one of the things that Kenyans need to start discussing is exactly how our cabinet will look in the future, because we are collapsing 40 cabinet positions now to 14 to 22, isn't it? Now, once that is done, that will be the president and the deputy president, and the cabinet secretaries will form our executive at the national level. Now, at the county level, we will also have the county government. Remember that our constitution says that governance in Kenya will be at two different levels, the national level and the county level. In the county level, there will also be an executive arm and there will be a legislative arm. Now, the executive arm will consist of the governor and the deputy governor and an executive committee that the governor under the constitution is allowed to nominate. Then at the county level, there will be again the legislative arm, and that consists of the county assembly, where we will all elect assembly representatives from the county level. Previously, we have known them as councillors because they are the ones representing us at the ward level. Save for the areas that have been designated as cities, which is Nairobi, Mombasa, and Kisumu. Immediately after the next election, the Local Authority Act will stand repealed, and therefore these local authorities will all not exist. We will all go to the county governance. Now, there is an important element in terms of legislative. You have to have the national legislative arms, which is the National Assembly and the Senate. They make laws. Okay. But the senator is also a conduit of county interests into the national level. So you will have members of parliament who are elected, of course, by people who are also within counties. They will carry that. But there will be the senators also will be a lawmaking body, but they will make laws at the national level. So our parliament now has two houses. You have the Senate and you have the National Assembly for various reasons. For instance, the senators will deal with a lot with the finances that are going to the county. The National Assembly will deal, of course, with the national kitty, and they have oversight on that. The difference now is that the governor and the senator are really not competing in terms of centers of power.
They have
different roles. Okay. The senator plays a legislative role, and the governor will essentially be in an executive role. Okay. So there is no contest between the two.
Okay, thank you. This discussion takes a break. Stay with us. Don't go away. Welcome back to Agenda Kenya with me, Jason Nyantino. Tonight we are focusing on devolution, the new government structure we are going to vote in on 4th of March next year. Is this the magic bullet to Kenya's development challenges? Commissioner, before we took a break, there was a discussion about senator and the governor's role. Could you just expound on that a little bit? And what was the thinking behind it? Because some Kenyans think, we are going to have more members of parliament, more salaries, you know.
Thank you. Jane's question raises three interesting issues which need to be clarified. First is the purpose of devolution. There are three key reasons why we devolved. One was to decentralize resources. Two was to decentralize power from the center, the presidency. And thirdly was to bring representation closer to the people so that you feel that those who govern you are directly elected by you and you can remove them if need be. Decentralization of resources is what the senator stands for in this setup. Decentralization of power and representation is what the county government stands for. But the second related question is, where is the center of power? Are there two centers of power? As Kenyans, we love that debate. As a matter of fact, it's not even two. The question usually is the senator, governor, and member of parliament, who's the more powerful one. In the setup of the constitution, it's not about who's more powerful. All of them are powerful, each with their specific role. The primary role of the county governor is to assume the role that the president plays in the nation. So within the county, it's a small reflection of the national executive, doing everything that one would do. It's like a class prefect, but they're still a school captain. The role of the senator is to protect that county at the national level, because the governor's business is only at the county, he has no business up there. Now, where their interests lie is to be protected by the senator. That is why any legislation that affects counties, the senator must play a role. Any question of allocation of resources, the senator comes in.
So there was no, in your thinking as you were drafting the constitution, there was no way one parliament could do those two roles?
No, it wouldn't, because then it would be conflicting. You see, the small government at the county level is supposed to focus on the people within that county.
Okay.
The senator's role is to protect that county, but to have national interests as well as they're doing that. So now, the third aspect of that question is, would there possibly be a conflict? There would not be any conflict. The issue is, in the setup and in their job descriptions, the senator's job is one which is nationalistic, but with a very clear knowledge of the county. The county governor's job obviously has to be a politician, because they have to be elected directly by the people. But the governor ought to be a political bureaucrat who understands how you run businesses, how you optimally use the money that comes in, how you can raise more money, and make sure that it's not siphoned.
Thank you. I'll take my next question from Asterius Ratemo, who is a student. Ratemo, your question.
Okay. Mine, I come from Dagoretti. I work with the Youth Economic Empowerment Program. My question is this. The central government has lately been accused of massive corruption, nepotism, and tribalism. Are we not seeing this replicating back to the devolved counties, whereby we see these people, these leaders who have reportedly been accused of their vices, going to seek for the positions of either governor or senator?
Okay.
That's my question.
Sarah, are we creating 47 centers of corruption?
That's a good question, especially because that is what the feeling within many Kenyans is, that we have the same leaders vying for the positions who have been allegedly or even otherwise been implicated in a lot of corruption schemes. Now, I think the answer to that question, without even speaking to what the law says, first of all, comes back to the people. The leaders we choose. Who will we elect? And then will we make a critical assessment as to the credibility of this person who is vying, in line with Chapter 6 of the Constitution, in line with the corruption allegations against them? Because the thing is, if we vote for people who then have allegations against them as individuals, then we are again going to be the ones propagating the disbursement of the corruption. However, speaking also to what the law says and actually about how the governments will be run or how the counties will be run, there are accountability and checking mechanisms within the counties. When it comes to appointment positions, when it comes to the working or their duties that they're supposed to have, and what kind of criteria they must abide by. For instance, if it's, the selection of the county executive committee, who, as mentioned here, is going to be the cabinet or the ministers at the county level, as much as the governor is the one who appoints these persons, he merely nominates names. these names, again, what we have been seeing is possibly the MP at the CDF level nominating his friends or his family to be in the CDF committee. But when you're talking about the governor and how he's supposed to run, or how the county executive committee is supposed to run, we are saying that the law actually stipulates that, first of all, he merely nominates names, and the criteria for those persons includes the fact that, first of all, they must have experience and experience in the department which they're supposed to be heading, such that it's not just anybody. It needs to have someone who has 5 years experience professionally in that career which are supposed to, or in that department which they're supposed to be heading as part of this cabinet at the county level. Secondly, about numbers, there's a limit as to how many can be appointed by this governor and how by the county. The county can't just have an open number of members of the executive committee. The law is actually very clear.
So, Sarah, we are saying that there are enough accountability mechanisms.
Yes.
My question is, if the governor has the power to nominate, what prevents the governor from coming up with a list? They are qualified, yes, but a list of his old boy network, friends.
Thank you, Jason. Another actually checking mechanism is the fact that these names are also subjected to the county assembly for debate. So they will have to again approve these names. That he has to be vetted, he has to be passed.
Thank you. There's a Felix. There's a research done by Jesuit Sakimani Center which shows that 44% of those interviewed believe that county resources will be used by corrupt leaders to enrich themselves. So we're actually devolving corruption. What do you have to say about that?
Let me start this way. In Nigeria, when they started the county arrangement, there were no proper regulations, no proper follow-ups. Half of those who became governors are millionaires. They are abroad. They are not in Nigeria anymore. They are millionaires.
In Nigeria?
In Nigeria. So in our case, we want to try to stop it. The legislations which you're talking about are in place. Because you start this way, whoever you're going to elect to be a governor, you need somebody with good experience, good knowledge. You have to vet him and know that this man has got good aspects of corporate governance. He can manage. That's one.
I think Felix, let me just, sorry to cut you short. We have these guys, because even nationally we have people with PhDs, corporate management,
But it will
PhD in management,
let me tell you,
but they're the first ones to be corrupt. So we are looking at mechanisms.
For example, the governor does not just get funds and use at will. There is the county representative. These fellows who have been elected, you used to call them councillors, but they are also politicians in a way or the other. They have to pass certain bills before funds are being disbursed. That is in place. Then two, there is the civil service. We are not going to operate in a vacuum. There's the civil service at the ground, which is working, including the Kenya National Audit Office, checking whatever is happening. And then the bills also, these bills on county government and laws will show what the bills have to be passed, leadership issues, and the things like cabinet. There will be also cabinet, look at all the scenarios. This touches to what we're talking about, resource allocation and representation.
Okay.
So these things will assist.
Okay, Wangui, as you come in, I want you to also probably interrogate the issue of who decides which projects will be funded at the county level.
Well, first, let me first of all say, we have a tendency as Kenyans, especially when we're talking about our elected leaders, to speak of them as though we had nothing to do with their being there. If we have bad leaders, so bad that we are so weary of them continuing, they really are a reflection of our choices. Let's start at the number one spot. If you choose the leaders that you have not properly interrogated, you have not properly verified and vetted at the voting level, when the voters cast the ballot, if you don't cast the ballot for a person who will not be a corrupt person, you will then have to deal with how to deal with them when they are in office. So let's start with where we can. We have the capacity to do that. But I also know that we have infrastructural problems where, for instance, good people are refusing to present themselves for office because they think that there are problems and obstacles. One of them, for instance, is the amount of money that is perceived to be necessary to make somebody run a campaign. And that's something the citizens can change. I remember Dr. Adhua Witi, the first time he was elected on the basis of him being a medical doctor and having moved around with his briefcase, telling people this is what I do for a living, and if I do this to help you at the health level, I can help elsewhere as well. Now, citizens, especially at this moment, have the capacity to provide this country with good leaders at all levels. Okay. You can support the good people that are there. But besides that, there have been a lot of things. We had the benefit of writing a constitution ourselves, and it has allowed us to put a lot of things. For instance, in the constitution, there is a whole chapter on public finance, and it provides for the principles and the values. One of them is that you cannot run public finance on, you cannot even hire on that basis. It has to be merit. You cannot hire people. We've written laws, the ethics, the Public Officers Ethics Act, the Fiscal Management Act. They're all there. We have the systems.
Will they be followed?
We have the, you see, we are coming from a backdrop. Corruption thrives where there is no information, number one, and secondly, where there is no mechanism. Because enforcement, we also, as in 2003, arresting police officers who are receiving bribes. Once we have the laws in place and the citizens are engaged, they'll be able to.
Yeah. Let's get to here. Let's to the audience, then I'll bring it back to you. Let's go to hear the Kenyans in the audience. Yes, you in front here. Your name?
Thank you very much. My name is Salim Paul. You know, corruption is like a cancer. And if we don't take the proper treatment on it, unfortunately, it might consume us Kenyans, right from national level down to county level. So I think having that background, like in 2003, whereby we could arrest our own askaris, and like right now, I think as much as they are, remember our elders at county level and national level are politicians. And you know, politicians, in one or the other, they have to involve corruption. So how cocksure are we that these guys are going to implement projects fairly with sober minds?
Thank you. On this section now on my right, gentleman in glasses, third row. Your name, please?
My name is Utikas Njoroge. I'm an events manager. What I would like to ask the panelists is, at the moment, our government is funding 70% of our total budget is going to recurrent expenditure, including salaries. And we have had this problem of us complaining about our MPs taking too much. Now, how is the county government going to be funded now that we have more positions than we had?
Thank you. Maybe one last one. Yeah, the gentleman in front here. Your name, please.
Thank you. My name is Jude Jomo. I'm an aspirant for Kiambu constituency position, but I prefer to introduce myself that I will be the first MP for Kiambu. My question is, you have talked about very good laws that have been made to make sure that we do not devolve dictatorship from national level to county level. I also understand that we are in a country that is not known to really enforce its rules, especially if we consider like the Machuki rules that were very good, that brought order into our roads, and now they are not being enforced, and we are having so many accidents. My question is, what mechanisms have been put in place to ensure that these rules are followed and that dictatorship does not devolve down to county levels?
Thank you for that. Agenda Kenya takes a break now, and if you're watching us, this is a good time to be part of this debate by responding to this question. Do you think devolution is the answer to Kenya's regional development challenges? Text your response to the number on your screen. Give us your name and location. You can also add a brief comment as to why you think it is or why you think it is not. We'll be right back. Welcome back to Agenda Kenya with me, Jason Nyantino. Tonight we focus on devolution, and we're asking, is this new government structure really going to improve the quality of our lives? That is the big question tonight. Commissioner Otiende, there was a question about accountability mechanisms from the audience.
Thank you. The question, which merged into 3, is, are we devolving corruption, maladministration, and dictatorship? The danger of devolving those vices are there, but they are addressed. We, as the Office of the Ombudsman, have a jurisdiction over both national and county government. And our role is to make sure that public servants, even at the county level, keep within the straight and narrow. Now, in addition to that, it means if anybody crosses the line, either they can be recommended for prosecution within corruption or for abuse of office or abuse of power. Secondly, the other mechanism is what some of the Kenyans who passed the Constitution are not very happy with. In Article 193, even at the county level, it requires that before you are appointed to that office or elected, you must satisfy such educational, moral, and ethical standards as are prescribed. It is a mechanism for making sure that because of that risk, you don't put people who are known to practice corruption already in those positions. The third mechanism is, if the governor becomes rogue, as Felix was saying, you can impeach the governor. You don't have to wait for the 5 years.
Those powers are there.
They are there. And if it's not just the governor, it's the governor and the entire executive, then the entire county government can be suspended. And you are told start afresh. So there are mechanisms.
Who suspends the county government?
It is suspended by the president on a certain procedure so that the president also does not abuse those powers. But the whole idea is, it is a way of protecting the people within the county, but also making sure you tell the people you should check your own leaders. If you don't, then you might all suffer by oath suspension.
There was also a question on expenditure, but I want probably Felix to respond to that. Citizen engagement. Could you respond to that, Sarah?
Yes, just to answer the question again, most of the questions that have come together, the issue basically is what we need to realize is that for devolution to work without corruption and make sure that expenditure is properly implemented and development furthers or is effected, it actually comes down to the citizen. We actually need to engage with this devolution process. We need to engage with the government or at the county level. And it comes right down to, from the point of, first of all, selection of projects. At this stage right now, we need to know that as citizens, we need to be there and participate publicly. Public participation, as per the Constitution, access to information, use those rights under the Constitution. Or those.
Do the citizens have specific forums they will attend?
Yes, yes, and that is what I'm coming to. There are different forums. It comes right down from the village representative, where you have a forum where before a project is implemented, it has to be first told to the people through a public forum, a public baraza, and posted into the board. And I'm sure even Wangui will even speak far more on that. But what I wanted to speak to mainly is that as citizens, first of all, we must ensure that, first of all, we abide by the law ourselves. We report if there are malfeasances or corruption. We report on it. We monitor these projects. And we actually make sure that we engage actively in all decisions that are being made.
Okay, Wangui, in terms of citizen engagement, as you respond, I want you to address this. If a governor decides that from a certain section of my county, these guys never voted for me, so I'm not going to do that road. I'll do a super highway to my home.
Yes.
And not to my opponent's home.
At my doorstep.
Is that possible in this new government structure?
No, one of the things that we fought for aggressively to have in the Constitution in this country. You'll find if you read the Bill of Rights, it's actually a Bill of Rights that empowers the citizens tremendously. I'll give you something that citizens may not have an idea of. The right to fair administration. The Constitution says that you have a right to fair administrative act. And if you go and somebody denies you something you need from government, he has to write it, to put it in writing where you're not getting it. We have written a Constitution that says citizens have the right to access information. And if that is not given to you, there are causes of actions that you can take. The Constitution empowers us in so many different ways. Let me start with the beginning, that amongst the national values in the Constitution is that in every aspect of governance, at whatever level, there must be public participation. And we have built it in, not just in the Constitution, it has been transported into various laws. You look at the schedule of the functions of county governments, the very last provision the county government must do, they have the mandate and the responsibility of ensuring that the infrastructure for public participation is affected. So that's the first point of demand, that we want to see our county governance provide for the mechanism for that. If you look at the budgeting process, it is no longer possible in this country for money to be allocated for something that we do not know about. The citizens are afforded an avenue for, one, submitting proposals, number two, following up on the process, and even interrogating the allocations. So, and then we have the right to access information. So let's work from all the different levels where we are. We can determine, there is no way the governor will write a budget without us. Okay. We get involved at the process of writing. Secondly, when the money is allocated, we are told how much, where it went, and then we can do social audits and determine that this is the process and it was not carried out properly. And we then we have very strong judiciary to take the people who have stolen directly to jail. We have all the facilities.
Thank you. You're so informed. You need to run for a seat, eh? Are you running for a seat?
No, I am working with people.
I'll take my next question from Trixie Mwakio, who is a student. Trixie, your question.
Okay, thank you. My question was on tax collection. We currently have the tax being collected by the Kenya Revenue Authority. Now, my question is, with the new system of devolution, who will collect the tax? And how will this tax come to national benefit and at the same time benefit the county?
Thank you. Felix, that's your area, and I want you to respond to all those other questions on public finance.
Fine. Let me start with that question. You see, the country, the way Kenya is, through the Constitution, we have agreed that we collect taxes, and these taxes, our parliament determines how they're used. First of all, through parliamentary bills, appropriation bills, come up with bills and say, this is how we are going to collect taxes. VAT, customs duty, and all other taxes. That's the central government's role. And then there's also, every year, there's a fiscal plan. The fiscal plan, budget process, which papers which must be submitted to Parliament, then they debate the budget nationally. In the course of the debating nationally, by Constitution, 16% of the revenue so collected goes to the county, which the bulk of the money is still at the center.
Is it 16, fellas, or 15?
15%, okay. But that's minimum 15%, but more as time goes, it will be more. So minimum 50% goes to the county. The balance remains. Now, that balance, it means the central government is still in place with the normal civil service, a lot of projects the way they're done before. Now, the lesson for devolution is that you remember the time we started with the CDF, the year 2003. It was only 2.5%. In certain places, you saw how it created changes. In certain places, because of bad management, it did not. You remember the Youth Fund and Women Fund, all that was an aspect of devolution. These were learning lessons which we have learned from. And it shows that now with the coming of the country, we are going to do much better. Now, let me come to the issue of, one asked that this 70% of our revenue, goes to a development, a recurrent expenditure. Fair enough. Kenya, I've done some jobs in the region, luckily enough, and abroad. Kenya is one country which is envied in Africa because we collect 90% of our money and can use it without borrowing. Kenya can survive without borrowing. We collect the taxes. Remember the days 2002 when people are really queuing to pay taxes. So we can collect our taxes and use that to create employment and make our youth work. Okay. But certain projects, which are major projects like road construction, bigger ones, we go into development partners, and those things come and assist us. It means that
there's something I need Commissioner to respond now that he had the opportunity to write this constitution. Yes. There's an element of property tax which the county governments have power to impose. That is the term that has been used in the constitution, and also entertainment tax.
Yes.
About property tax, don't you think the cost of living is going to shoot with this new government structure?
The answer is no, for two reasons. First of all, it's not exactly new. As we speak right now, property taxes are collected within what we call local government. The only difference is those local governments collect the taxes and remit it to Nairobi. And most of the tax never finds its way back to the people. In this setup, you collect those taxes and you use it to develop the people. But is there a danger that one county could decide that property tax for one house, which you bought at $500,000, is 1 million? The answer is no. Because the Constitution is also very clear on that. You cannot impose such taxes as to sabotage the national economy. Mm-hmm. So legislation will also prevent that. So there is absolutely no danger. The only issue here is we want that when taxes are collected by people from a certain community, those taxes should benefit those communities, not go and benefit others who have not participated in it.
Wangui, you wanted to...
At the county level,
quickly.
They have to debate on what taxes to employ. You don't just impose tax.
It has to be deliberated.
There's the county legislature, they'll debate and agree this is the tax we can impose.
Okay.
Yeah.
It's also important to underscore the fact that taxation is actually a national issue. Yes, it won't be debated at county level, so that you avoid situations where certain county governments might impose too high taxes on the people. Yeah. But the demarcation of the collection of revenues between the national and the county government is somewhat clear, because the tax collection for national government, things like customs and excise, those clearly are the province of the national government. But we've been given property and entertainment taxes. And if you think in terms of the land rates we are already paying, that is possibly what they have in mind, that those rates will be collected at the county level and therefore will be deposited within the county. But also, if you look at the functions of county government, the licenses, the parking fees, for instance, those are all revenue generating mechanism for the county government. It is true that we seem to have created a rather large government, and that is something that we need to sit again as a people to navigate. How do we manage to keep our recurrent expenditures low so that we can use most of our monies for government? But I refuse to subscribe to the notion that seems to be prevalent, that we must maintain certain very high salaries, because we put in the Constitution the Salaries and Remuneration Commission that is supposed to rationalize our expenditure. And I think if we, the people, start supporting those kinds of commissions, then we can even have our members of parliament bring their salaries lower so that we can have more of the money accessible for us to do our
Thank you. Sarah, there's the element of marginalized groups or communities within those counties. I'll give you an example. In Migori County, the Kuria constituency, this was a report from National Cohesion and Integration Commission, and this is what they found out. The community has resolved to stay silent and aloof from the entire process, that is the process of devolution, secede to join their fellow couriers across the border in Tanzania, Kuria see Kenya, or initiate armed struggle. This is a government report. So do you think there are mechanisms within the devolved structures to take care of such groups?
Yes, actually there are several mechanisms within the devolved structure to take care of marginalized communities. As you would find even in the Constitution and even in the county legislation, each section actually thinks of, or rather speaks of, paying special consideration to marginalized groups and youth and women and children. However, of more importance to this situation specifically is that, for instance, in that county, it would be very important then to make sure that, or rather to encourage them not to secede and actually participate, because there is the provision that they should actually have special seats or considered minorities and marginalized groups are considered for special seats, and they must also, or rather they must also be encouraged to petition whenever an issue is against them or they feel that they are being marginalized. Again, there's a mechanism for petitioning, the governor petitioning the county assembly, just so that their issues are raised as specific to them.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much. I've run out of time. I'm sorry, I've run
Constitution is there.
Very quickly.
You see what it means, that whatever you're doing, there's the main Constitution, which guards how minority interests have been protected. You can't forget that, yeah.
Thank you very much. Yeah. And that's where the curtains fall for Agenda Kenya this week. I thank all of you for participation, and also to all of you at home for watching. You can still be part of this discussion by responding to this question. Do you think devolution is the answer to Kenya's regional development challenges? Respond to the answer. Sorry, I'll take that again. Do you think devolution is the answer to Kenya's regional development challenges? Text your response to the number on your screen. Give us your name and where you're watching us from. You can also add a brief comment on why you think why it's a yes or why it is a no. You can also extend this conversation to our Facebook and Twitter pages, and let's get to know what you think. And until next week, bye-bye.